Good morning. This is Cab, here to drive you crazy. And as you could tell from the title of this video, it's not really a clickbait. It is officially now the 5-year anniversary of my sister's passing. And I kind of just wanted to share a little bit about this story because not that many people who have gotten to know me within this last 5 years knows anything about what had happened with my sister, and I feel like this is about a good enough time for me to share it. So officially it is March 24th here in the Philippines, so it technically won't be the 24th in America or even back in Hawaii when I had first received this information, for a couple more hours. But I just wanted to get this recording done because it is something I feel like I want to share as soon as possible. Because again, the date itself is what's synonymous to me. It's not really when the time period happened. And of course I got here little Cabby, of course, and I'll explain why I have her with me in this video. Little Cabby. So it all started off about midnight in Hawaii time, March 24th, where I heard all of my dogs barking. Typically, if one of the dogs are barking, we don't worry too much because it's maybe someone walking down the street. But when all 3 dogs are barking, there's typically a very bad sense of something happening. I go outside of my room to see that there's someone outside of the house with a flashlight, kind of like glaring and flaring their flashlight inside of the house. So I'm thinking, no way, this is happening right now to our house. And immediately I'm running out to the front door where we have an aluminum bat, which usually we have for some kind of defense. And I'm like banging out through the door holding this aluminum fence, trying to hopefully use it to scare away whoever it may be, until I realize that there's red and blue lights flashing out on the street, and the person that's holding that flashlight is a police officer. The police officer walks up to me and says, "Is this the residency of a David Beatty, who is my dad?" And at first, I'm kind of just, it's late at night. I'm not really thinking too far straight, but first thing and foremost that was running in my mind was something bad just happened. I walk over to my dad's room because we are still in the same house at the time, and he's like just getting out the door to say what was going on, and I tell him, "Dad, you gotta come to the door." And he walks up to the door, sees that there's the police officer, and the police officer simply just says, "Here's a note, sir, of a phone number that you need to call. Please have a good rest of your day." And both of us are kind of just puzzled and confused, and we're just standing in our kitchen while he is setting up the phone call, which sent a phone number to a police department that was actually in Georgia, which is where my sister was located at the time with her fiance. My dad is the one who makes the call to him, and of course I'm just sitting over here, just no more than maybe 3 feet away from my dad, not being able to actually hear the conversation, but immediately having to see my dad drop to his knees in just pure disbelief. The imagery of having to see him fall down to the ground and then slowly have to find himself a pen where his hands was just so shaky because of just the disbelief that was going on in his mind, having to try and write down other information that's being told to him, and eventually having to wait until he was off that phone call to ask him what that phone call was all about. with the heaviest heart, he had to explain to me that my sister had jumped off a bridge into oncoming traffic. I knew there was a lot of hurt that was going on with my sister, especially with her fiance. There was a lot of, medications that she was trying to get through because she was in a very bad car accident herself a few months prior and had to be taking those medications to be able to subside her pains. She kind of became more dependent on alcohol to, make the numbness help with her pain. But never would I've ever thought that this was the way that she would have ultimately chose to go with this, I guess. And I was in such disbelief in thinking that that was even a true statement that my own dad had to tell me. But the thing that hurt the most was knowing that my mom was still asleep and we had to somehow go to the room to explain that to her. We both approached the room and we both tried to approach it in the best way possible. And as soon as my dad ultimately was able to get to her, I held my mom and hugged her, and both me and my dad are just in tears surrounding her. And my mom's first sense of disbelief of just saying no. She wanted to call the fiance, and first things out of the conversation was, please just tell me that this isn't true. And the only thing that we ever heard come from that speaker was, I'm so sorry. It's really made me a much different person from that point. Because at that time, I always looked to my sister as my best friend. A person that was always able to talk to, a person that if I ever had anything going wrong with relationship-wise or just a bad day, she was always that one that I can go and talk to. Always the person that I can have a reason to say if I needed something done, helped with, whatever. Even though she was my younger sister, she was the one who went out of her way to say, okay, big brother, I guess I'll be the big sister and help you out again. It took me a long time to kind of realize that, yes, she is gone, and there are still times where I do get very emotional about it because that's just what they say, These kind of things are hard to just accept and get over, especially when it's someone that means that much to you. And I share this right now because there is something that I want to confess myself, which is I never spoke to her 2 weeks prior before actually knowing about this passing, and how much conversation I would have loved to have had with her. How much I would have probably cried and begged to her just to say, if you weren't that happy to be there, you know that all your family members were going to be there to support you, bring you back home if you needed to be. If it means that you had to cancel the wedding because you weren't going to be comfortable with this guy, then so be it. Or whatever the situation, whatever hardships had ultimately came over her, the only thing I could have ever asked for was for her to actually reach out. But she was very strong in her sense to say that she could figure out things for herself more than ever try to rely on the help of others. And That was something I knew she did a lot. But never take for granted for the things that you have until it's gone. Always know and appreciate everything that you have with you, because before you realize it, it is gone, and you don't have that chance again to be able to talk to them, to be able to have anything other than this emotion that I deal with for the last 5 years, knowing that no matter what it ever comes down to, I could be happy and joyful and sometimes just careless to the thought, and then all of a sudden it snaps back into my brain to say, my sister is gone. Please understand that the hurt that it gives me the most is the hurt that I had to see my own dad go through. Because now, since I am a dad, it only hurts me more to think that I would ever have a reason to say I lose my baby girl. Always treasure and cherish everything that you have. Always put the time and effort into everything that you love and care for. And if there's ever a reason that you need help, or see that there's someone who may need help, always do your best for them. My name is Cab, and I'm here to drive you crazy. Aloha, God bless, and take care.